Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Franki's Open Mic. I'm Haleigh Overseth, your host. I've got my co-host, Alecia Maximo, here with me.
Hello, everyone, again.
And we are so excited to have Carmine Iacono here. Carmine is an actor, voiceover actor. Look at you, Big Bear Entertainment Company, right there in the back. And I love your logo with such a fascinating background before you started acting. And I can't wait for us to just hear all about your adventures in the entertainment industry. Hello, Carmine, and welcome.
Well, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. It's been a long travel to get from point A to point B.
Well, you know what? That's the journey of life, just a little bit, isn't it? Sometimes that's just how it goes.
Gotta push through it.
Funny enough, it went from point A to point B back to point A again. So it's a
well, tell us about that journey. So did you, prior to the law experience you had, did you do acting before you did the law stuff? Is this something I don't know about?
Well, I don't want to sound cliche-ish here, but as kids and growing up during the era that we did in Canada, in Toronto, the whole idea of Hollywood or acting or producing and directing was just such a far-fetched concept. It would have been probably as realistic as thinking that we could travel to Mars or to the moon or something. However, we ran around with our 8mm camera.
I love that.
And we would film little episodes, and the reels were small. So if I remember correctly, they're probably somewhere between 3 or 4 minutes long. And as time progressed.
So you were doing reels as a kid before Instagram and TikTok was even a thing.
Oh,
that's
absolutely.
Amazing.
We were doing little skits and little shorts at the time. And then technology developed, and we ended up with a Super 8 camera, which was the next step from the 8mm. And then after that, well, God, there was an 8mm, a Super 8mm with sound.
With sound, even. I love that you got to play with those toys as they were being developed. I'm a little bit jealous of you for that. That's exciting.
Well, I tell you something. It was an interesting journey going through and growing with the technology. Something that was available, but beyond our budget. They had reel-to-reel video recorders at the time. And the cameras and everything were expensive. And these were things that we finally got exposed to in junior high school. Now, I'm not going to start referencing the years.
That's all right. We won't ask you to do that. Time is irrelevant.
Right.
But it's somewhere between the dinosaurs and the Roman Empire.
Oh, wow.
Listen, that just means you've got a wealth of historical knowledge that you can draw from your acting skills. So, good on you.
Mm-hmm.
So, in junior high school and drama class, we worked with cameras and reel-to-reel video recorders, which was an enormous advancement for our technology and our ability to be able to create short films at the time.
So this was at school. Was this something common? I mean, I feel like it. I don't know that there would be a lot of film opportunities in high schools or middle schools. Well, I mean, even now to play with those kind of things, maybe a little bit more. The arts in schools, obviously, that's a whole other podcast conversation. But I mean, that's really interesting that you're in a school where you get to play with those kinds of things. Was that common at the time?
Well, during that period of time, we had our education system had these type of classes. We had drama class, we had home economics, we had shop, things of that nature. And we're talking about junior high schools, where from grade 7 to grade 9. And so we had exposure to these kind of things. And these courses were mandatory. You had to take drama. I guess that was to help develop your character.
Improv.
Yeah, we had to take.
There you go.
Right.
home ec so that we knew how to cook and sew. Funny enough, we had to take a shop, whether boys or girls, and we had to take art courses. We had these prerequisites that we had to take, of which I'm very grateful.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a lot of, I mean, very well-rounded skills to be required for you to take. It is a useful.
Well, extremely. And as things developed, and as I moved forward, obviously the whole concept, well, that's not obvious. It was a thing, the whole concept of movie making and acting and all that was just, like I said, so far beyond the understanding of it being a potential career at the time. So we were mostly driven towards more practical aspects in life. Doctors, lawyers, bankers, accountants. That was the direction that we were motivated to go towards. That was considered to be accomplishments and achievements and
that's I think that is something that probably a lot of people would appreciate about your story, because I think that resonates with a lot of folks even now. And maybe Alecia, tell me if I'm wrong, and maybe I'm picking on just where I grew up, I guess, a little bit, right? But just the idea that you can go from wherever it is that you start to whatever kind of career you want, right? I think that's something that we even now are still trying to push past as a institution of society, a common mindset that people have, right? That like you have to be born into the right kind of situation to be able to go into entertainment, and it's not true, right? So I think there's a lot of people, and again, Alecia, go ahead and pick up where I'm at.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I'm saying here.
Definitely. I like to add, as far as the like in the Western school system, we grew up basically very similar, where we're taking home ec classes and English classes and algebra. And we don't use algebra today. I haven't really met anyone that uses algebra, but
unless you're in the sciences or if you're doing accounting things,
right, yeah. But I mean, like people like us are artists and actors and voice actors. In the school system and growing up the way that I grew up in that school system, I wasn't able to experience anything outside like the school curriculum. So you having the advantage of basically taking that school system but turning it into your own thing, as far as taking what you've learned either from drama class or moving forward and creating what you created now is amazing transformation. Relating to what Haleigh said, we have the advantage now to not be so in the box and thinking we're outside the box after we graduate high school or graduate college. I feel like sometimes certain classes, certain studies try to keep you in the box as far as the career that you're going after. But now with the internet and AI, right, the possibilities are endless.
Right. Anybody can go anywhere. And I so tell me a little bit then, when you kind of got, maybe if you can talk about sort of being diverted into the quote unquote practical career path, right? And during it, did you keep up with a little bit of your entertainment passions?
Well, initially, the whole drive was towards engineering. And so all maths and sciences through high school and initially at college. And at some point, quite frankly, I just got tired of all the maths and sciences.
Fair enough.
And I remember coming home for summer vacation one year and sitting down with my dad and said, I'm really having second thoughts about engineering. And he looks at me and says, well, what are you thinking about? I said, well, I think lawyering is a direction I want to go. And interestingly enough, one of my good friends who happened to be my father's lawyer and his first lawyer at the time, I had spent a lot of time with his name was John. And I spent a lot of time with John as a teenager, and he as a lawyer, and hearing the stories and being inspired towards a legal career. The seed was planted. I just didn't know the seed was planted.
Mhm.
And years later, it sprouted, and I decided that, hey, law is the direction for me, not knowing at the time that it was kind of my way of addressing my passion for entertainment and acting and producing and directing, along with a practical aspect or a practical career. Because in reality, as a lawyer, you are performing for the judge. You are performing for the jury. You are performing for your client.
You have to build a convincing argument that this is the truth that we are presenting to you. That's very true.
Exactly. And you find that if you follow any particular lawyer over a number of years, a lot of their presentation in court is literally memorized and scripted, and they'll use the same phrases and the same arguments under certain circumstances. So it was just a natural way of being able to fulfill my desire, my passion, in what would be perceived in a more practical aspect. Not knowing.
That is a fascinating perspective. I really do enjoy that and love that. The idea that you are, because in any kind of job that you're doing, right, there's a certain amount of a performance element. Like I'm embodying the avatar, the character who is this position, whatever it is. And, when you're saying that with lawyers and how they have maybe certain techniques or things they use, it's almost like a comedian's sort of like shtick, or their sort of what kind of vibe they are, or their bits that they go back to that are like fallback bits, right? It's a little bit, so there is a lot to the parallels there. That is a really interesting perspective.
And I found over the years as a lawyer, and I'm retired now from private practice, but I found then and even now that it seems that the majority of lawyers that I've known and interacted with, they are in reality aspiring actors and producers and directors, but they've taken the practical route.
Wow. And
when they first found out that I went back into acting and the entertainment industry, I got a lot of comments from them saying, "Well, my God, I really envy you, because I would have loved to have been able to do the same thing, because that had always been my passion."
Right.
And
that's amazing. Yeah. So okay. What was your first sort of foray then into the film and the acting and things that they would have seen and said, "Oh, that's something that I would love to do," and that made you kind of put that together?
I'm going to backtrack a little bit, because while I was going to college, I started getting involved with film.
Okay.
On an actor's basis. I did background, I did featured background, things of that nature. And I was really enjoying it. I had made some good contacts when I was living in Florida. And there's a lot of filming at the time that was going on in Florida. And so I had that opportunity to kind of dive into it from a more mature and a higher level than running around with a Super 8 camera. And it was just very stimulating, and it just kind of helped feed the beast. So that,
feed the beast. I love it. You got to feed that beast of your passion, otherwise it's going to get mad at you.
Exactly. And it was able to keep it under control while I pursued the more practical aspects of life. And then I got to a point where I was ready to kind of start winding down my practice. and some opportunities that come up for some small roles and things of that nature, non-union stuff. And I thought, why not? And I started stepping into it, and it just kind of took over from there. The beast took over.
Well, when you take a break for a long time, I'm sure it was pretty hungry for some more fun stuff and doing the real production elements. So I know that you have done like a lot of commercials and things like that, and a lot of other, different kinds of roles. Can you talk about a little bit of when you went into that sort of like transition into, okay, from the practical to the passions and to just letting the passions be the thing that I do?
I just want you to know that I'm currently being attacked by my lab.
Oh, hello, Pupper. Listen, we don't have any problems with four-legged furry friends coming into the podcast. We have Alecia and I will allow the dogs to come visit anytime.
Aw, so cute.
Yeah, he is. Just give me a second, and
Okay.
I will put him in the next room here. Otherwise, he won't leave me alone here.
Okay.
Oh, don't worry. Not even a problem.
Just give me a sec here. Hold on.
But then I can get Alecia over here to give me a little bit of, again, this is something that we do talk about frequently, just this idea of sort of, a lot of people are in that space, like what he's talking about, having this passion, this thing that you want to go and explore. But we live, in the world of Caesar, as Neville Goddard would say, where you still have practical things that you need to take care of. And so you still have to, pay the bills, as it were. And sometimes I don't know, I guess you would say maybe the fear of the unknown that can come into play when you are doing this kind of work, because it's not, obviously with acting, you're going to have and performance art and things like that. It's more like freelancing, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's not a 9-to-5. You don't sign up and this is what I do and you pay me for 40 hours a week kind of thing, right? Like you have the job, you do the job, and then the commercial's over or the movie's over and you got to move on and find the next one. So there's a lot of, I don't know, I guess how it is a bit like freelancing, and there's a lot of having to think on your feet and kind of be looking for different jobs and be open to opportunities, right?
Sorry.
And a lot of uncertainty. A
lot
of uncertainty.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, we look at our passion projects as far as something that we're passionate about and, doing it to feed that bear, like you were saying, Carmine, hence the name of your company, which I love in your background. The bear is hungry, so you have to feed the beast, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I love that idea, and I love how you came up with that concept. But back what Carmen was speaking about as far as like being the lawyer, but also using the acting skills that you're passionate about, all of them connect. I like to call it as like a calculated risk, where you had that passion where you're already performing in front of the judge as a lawyer, but turn it into something that you can see that can scale into long term. So I feel like there has to be like a balance between showing yourself in the real world, paying the bills, of course, right, Haleigh, but also finding that time or finding that calculated risk to go after that passion where the bills are taken care of. You can take a couple months off to either freelance or expose yourself to those different types of avenues. Either it's acting, being an entrepreneurship, whatever is your passion. I say go for it and take a very calculated risk. If you're an older adult, of course.
Well, that's for everybody. I think it's an interesting space that I think we're in, especially with things like the internet, like, there's so many different avenues that you can go through to put your own stuff out there, your own creativity, your own productions, to go find people who are like you and looking for those things. So, and Carmine, maybe you can talk to us a little bit about this then. When you're making that transition from focusing your energy into the practical to be practical, and then redirecting your energy into, I really want to follow my passion. What did that look like for you? Was this something where you were like a little bit of acting on the side until I had enough of it to switch? What was that? What did that look like for you?
Well, I was kind of in a very fortunate position at the time, because I had been appointed as a part-time judge a number of years prior. So when I retired from private practice as a part-time judge, I was able to schedule pretty much my time as to kind of accommodate my needs and whatnot. So I still had an opportunity for income to be coming in, and so I was not risking it all at that point by wrapping up my practice, because the practice is very demanding. I was a criminal defense lawyer, and as a criminal defense lawyer, you're pretty much on call 24/7. You know, my pager would go off at 3:00 in the morning because of arrests that occurred at night before, or whatever the case is. So my personal schedule in time was very minimal at the time. So when I retired from private practice, and I still kept my per diem judge position, it gave me a lot of flexibility. It gave me an income that was manageable. If I needed more dates, I would ask for more dates. If I was busy doing other things, I would turn down dates. And so it there again, it allowed me for a practical way to get into what would otherwise be considered an impractical direction or path of life. Mm-hmm. So that was a thing. And I find that a lot of actors, producers, directors, writers, most of them have other jobs which are flexible and allow them the opportunity to be able to have a source of income and yet still be able to try to build their career.
So I want to ask you a little bit for the judge element here, and like a little bit more of the parallels, right? So like you're doing the performing in front of the judge as the lawyer, and then you get to flip over and have the opposite side of it where you're, you know, judging the performances of the lawyers, and right? Mm-hmm. So there's a little bit of that actor to the director, producer behind the scenes, right? That kind of parallel. Like how did you sort of use that kind of experience or that energy then in your acting and then doing the producing or directing element? Did you, like, when did you start getting into more of those kind of things on the back end production along with your acting?
Getting back to your point about the lawyer and the judge, mm-hmm. I think the judge in a more accurate way is more of the audience rather than the producer and the director. Because
okay.
You're observing, you're absorbing, and at the end you come up with an opinion, much like an audience who is watching a show or a movie. At the end of the show or the movie, I can't get up in the middle of it, obviously. However,
you can't. No popcorn refills right now. You got to sit and listen to the whole argument from both lawyers.
Yeah.
But at the end, you form an opinion of the performance. So it's really being an audience rather than being a producer or director. Now, with respect to the producing and directing aspect, interestingly enough, as I mentioned right from the beginning of today, we used to run around with cameras, and we would film, and we would direct people, and we had people doing little skits or whatever. And so it kind of came around full circle, because I realized that I had a lot of stories that wanted to be told. Mm-hmm. And at one point, I was fortunate enough to hook up with a screenplay writer who is in Naples, Italy. And the reason that happened, was he had cast me in a movie that he was in the process of putting together. He had written a screenplay. It was called 1000 Sword in the Stone, which in fact is the true story behind the legendary King Arthur.
Okay, very
This is
interesting.
what
Right.
it is,
Gotta check it out.
and the actual the authentic story takes place in Italy, and so he wrote the
This I have never heard. That's some. I have to go down that rabbit hole at some point. That's a whole edutainment, something that I need to research right there. I was not aware of this.
Well, yes, and as a matter of fact, that there is in fact a sword embedded in a boulder in Italy, located in the just northeast of Rome, at a village there, and they built an encasement over the boulder with a sword in it, and there's an actual church built over it.
Wow.
And they went there and they actually analyzed the sword, and in fact, scientifically, they've been able to prove that this sword is embedded into the boulder.
That is, how do I not know about that little magical tidbit in the real world timeline?
That's fascinating.
I love that.
Right. We have to go to Italy and check it out.
We are going to have to go to Italy, and Carmine's going to come along with us, and he's going to be our tour guide.
Actually, we'll have the screenplay writer Guido, who is very familiar with the site and very familiar with Italy. We'll have him be our tour guide. So he wrote, so he wrote kind of a fantasy story based on that storyline, and he had cast me as one of the characters. Now we were supposed to start. I was cast back in 2018-ish. With a filming start of somewhere early 2020.
Ooh.
Yeah.
We all know what's coming now, don't we?
Well, the shooting had to be canceled, and the investors, if I remember correctly, I think it was the budget was somewhere in about 125 million euros at the time.
Ooh.
And with COVID,
good price.
Very much so. There was a lot of interesting scenes there, and as a matter of fact, one of the scenes would take place at a marine set in Malta, because apparently Malta at the time had one of the world's largest marine sets. And that's where all these films having to do with ships and oceans and stuff were being filmed.
More information I did not know that I'm glad I learned today. That's very cool.
A full history lesson today, Haleigh.
I know. I didn't know that we were going to get so much edutainment coming in today.
Right?
Like, Carmine, are you ever just on brand and a half for me and Alecia right now? Please continue to tell me about Malta.
Well, so part of the scene where the Druids were being attacked by the Vikings was going to be filmed there in Malta. So all that had to be canceled. Now, the interesting thing is, because of the delay in shooting, technology kind of advanced. So CGI got much better. And then, of course, from CGI, it went to AI. So everything kind of developed better and better as we went along. Now, the film has not been shot yet because during the COVID period, a lot of the investors, their industry, suffered from COVID. Mm-hmm. And so the financing had dropped, and that whole production had to be delayed. Well, the good thing that came out of that is that I developed a very good friendship with Guido, because my background is from Naples, and and he's from Naples, so we had that camaraderie thing going on there of our background. So and he had won multiple international awards for that particular screenplay. And I'll repeat the name. It's called 1000 Sword in the Stone.
I'll put it in the comments here so that if people want a 1000 Sword in the Stone.
That's correct. And so he and I started talking about some other productions, and he ended up writing a couple of other screenplays. two of which were based on books written by friends of mine.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, one is called When Time Stands Still, and the other is a sci-fi that was based on a book written by a friend of mine from Africa. And so he wrote the screenplays. He started getting numerous international multi-awards for his screenplays. And
so I need to talk to him about writing a screenplay for my Adventures of Abernathy Franklin sci-fi stuff, right?
Well, there you go.
There we go. And then we're going to write you in as a character and Alecia in as a character, and we'll all pop on over to Malta and we'll write it. We can like blend it in with the Sword in the Stone. We'll get a little bit of some cosmic sauce in there, and I'll find a way to like explain that it was actually some version of like my Abernathy Franklin out in the multiverse that kind of came down to Earth and oopsie, got that sword stuck in the stone and comes back and is like, I had no idea you guys were going to make such a big deal out of that. I really didn't mean to do that. Like, we could get some really fun stuff going here. Yeah, I like this already.
I was going to mention to Carmine, you should hire Haleigh as a creative director.
No kidding.
I'm on it. I will come up with stuff for you all day, every day. Like, I will. If you think I can't make wild speculations on how the aliens kind of came down, or like some human version from way in the future came back to old times Earth and just popped a sword in a stone and was like, I'm just going to keep this here for later, but leave it alone, you guys, because I'm going to need this one day. And then, oh, you guys made a whole story and lore about that. That's cool.
Well, interestingly enough, the premise of Sword in the Stone, what happens is a little boy ends up going through a portal and travels back in time, and he's actually our observer of what's going on back in time and back in the year 1000 and how the whole story unravels. So it's interesting that you mentioned that, because that's exactly the premise of the story.
Wow.
I love this. I can't wait. When are you going to actually start filming? We need to talk to Guido. Guido and Carmine need to come and hang out on the podcast. And like, how do we get this film kicked back into gear again? I know COVID came and like punched us out a little bit, but like, y'all, you got to make this movie. I'm stoked about it already.
Yeah,
well, here's what happened. We were able to put together a couple other screenplays, which were also international multi-award winning screenplays, and but these were all big budget productions. And recently a friend of mine approached me, and he had written a short, and he gave me the short. He said, what do you think about it? And I read it over, and I loved the premise of the story. And I said, well, there's more here. We have to make this thing here could be a feature film. It really could. So I reached out to Guido, and Guido at this point now, he's one of the executives with Big Bear, and so
I love it.
So we have we have a lot of things going on, and so I said, Guido, listen, I want you to read this short and tell me what you think. He read it. He said, I like the premise. I said, well, so do I. But it's got to be a feature film. This is a short. I want to do a feature film out of this. And he says, okay, fine. You do the story outline and send it to me, and we'll work on the final screenplay on this. So I have just recently finished the story outline of this production. It's currently called.
That's exciting.
It's called I Love You, Melanie.
I love you, Melanie. Do we get to know anything about who Melanie is? What movie trailer kind of items do we get to know about the screenplay?
Okay, so it's a romance that goes sideways. In reality, it's a psychological thriller.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
Love those.
Oh yeah.
It kind of has the flavor of, I'll mention some movies that you probably have seen and loved. Interstellar.
Yes.
Shutter Island.
Okay.
Shutter Island.
Okay.
Sixth Sense.
Love Sixth Sense.
And the other one, the most recent one, which in fact was written, produced, and directed by a good friend of mine, Stephen Wallace, is called The Martini Shot, which has won numerous multi-international awards for all sorts of best film, best actors, all this kind of best screenplay, whatever. So it's kind of it brings all that together. And the thing that it really excites me about I Love You, Melanie, is that it's a kind of movie that after you've seen it once, you will want to go back and watch it again. Because
catch all the little Easter eggs that you missed.
You got it. Because at the end, the twist is so shocking that the audience is going to realize that, wait a minute, everything that they've seen so far is possibly an illusion. What is real?
Like, I have to reevaluate all the pieces that I was just watching entirely. And be like, what just happened? I love this.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Seems intense.
And it's called I Love You, Melanie. He's in the process of just finishing off the first draft of the screenplay based off of my storyline outline. And we're going to have a few meetings on that one there. But the good thing about this particular movie is we currently have it budgeted at about $12.5 million US, which is very reasonable.
I was going to say, compared to your 125 million euros that you had rocking and rolling over there for Thousand Sword in the Stone in 2020, like, y'all have really cut back on your costs. Well done you if technology has been able to help you do that. Like, that's one of the exciting things about where we're at right now, right? There's a lot more capacity that we have to be making these productions.
Exactly. And it's a simple movie in many ways. It's kind of Hallmark meets Chris Alexander kind of idea.
I love that. Hallmark, bring the Hallmark vibe into a psychological thriller. I dig it.
Yes, I
love it. Make
it
even more spooktastic when you do that, right?
Exactly. So that's what we're working on right now. And the interesting thing it's not just technology that's changed in the entertainment industry. It's also the fact that a lot of these independent projects allow for independent investors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And this is a huge difference from back in the day when everything was controlled by the major studios in Hollywood and the big money people, this kind of thing. A lot of productions have been able to go forward with independent funding and independent investors and financing. Some people as little as $1,000 or $500, and it's just a matter of being able to get these independent productions out there, and I think that is one of the biggest changes in the industry that I've seen in my lifetime. How the industry has just come around and made it far more available to everyone.
There's a lot more access. This is very true. This is something that I think we've talked about before, and I know I've talked about with Alecia, the idea of things being more accessible because of the internet, because of AI, because of these new advances we have that make creating a film and putting a story out there so much more, doable at lower cost and less time put in, so that more people who do have stories to get out can get them out there. And that's such a big part of what we do. There's so many people who are working on, like you at Big Bear Entertainment Company, and working on really unique and different, stories. Because I think this is a thing too, that everybody's tired of the reboots, right? Like, everybody's tired of seeing the same things. Like, yes, we all loved it from back in the day, and it's great, and it's fun when you redo it. But we need some new stuff. We got to get some new juices in the ingredients here, you guys. We need some new spices coming along. And so that is really exciting to hear that there are people who are really taking advantage of the things that are available now.
Mhm.
And it's really awesome too to hear that there are people who want to invest in that these projects are getting off the ground because people want to invest in these indie projects. And maybe you can speak a little bit about that when you are someone who's got something like, so for anybody out there, they are just starting out and want to go into acting. They are just have this screenplay, me with my writing, right? So for people who really want to go out there and look for this kind of funding or start getting this rolling, what would you tell someone, or what advice would you give to someone having done so much of the just trial and errors, maybe not the way to say it, but just that you've had to go through the like, oopsie, COVID, now what, and that sort of thing?
Well, there's two aspects. As the investor, obviously, you want to look at whether the production is something that that speaks to you, something that you find interesting, and being able to invest an amount of money that will not necessarily put you in a situation of hardship, and it's also a great feeling to be able to be part of something that you believe in, something that you feel can make a difference. And I think that's one of the main reasons a lot of producers, directors, screenplay writers, whatever, that's why they do what they do. It's because they want to be able to tell a story and make a difference. Whether it's to just excite people, whether it's to educate people, whatever the case is. And so being able to be part of it is an exciting way without devoting too much of yourself into a production, and being able to be supportive and on the sidelines, kind of like contributing to your favorite organization or charity kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Contribute to the story that you think will, be of entertainment value, but also be impactful. Yeah. And I love that. That's one of the things that I get so excited about with indie productions in general, and production companies like what you're doing, that there's a certain amount of a sense of community to it when you all come together to make that production, and it's not the big Hollywood, all the big money and the big, people resources. It becomes something a little bit more intimate and a little bit more impactful to everyone who's on it. And the energy that comes out of that, I think, really speaks to people in a different kind of way. Sorry, Alecia. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just agreeing with what Haleigh was saying, is that there's a big difference between like those powerful indie movies and like those big blockbuster movies, as well as far as like for the big entertainment. And I really resonate with the indie movies. There's a popular brand, I think, that you guys know. It's called A24. And ever since I discovered how they produce their movies, I find their movies very touching, very intimate, and very like educational as well, depending on what the subject is. But there is a lot of people out there that are really looking forward to creating that intimate type of I would say entertainment within different production companies. So I definitely agree with you on that, Haleigh. And we're seeing a change in the entertainment industry, kind of taking it a little right turn there, where people are more focusing on providing what the audience like needs to hear and needs to know, than just like throwing like action movies every couple of years.
just hitting the trending kind of topic doesn't really cut it anymore, right?
Right.
People are really looking for what you're doing, Carmine. People are really looking for the things that are like really passion projects that people chose to get off the ground because it's a story you believe in, and not for the bottom line of how many people can we get into a theater.
Right.
Exactly. And the other thing that I've noticed, especially over the last several years, is that a lot of the major award organizations are now looking at shorts a lot more seriously than they used to.
Okay.
And providing awards to shorts and animations, where at one time you had to be a feature film to be able to be even considered. And being able to come in with a short or an animation of sorts allows for a number of things. Number one, it allows for someone to get into the industry and start developing themselves, developing their recognition, developing their style, getting their story out, and at basically a very economical level. Whether it's a low budget union production, or you start off with non-union and move into low budget union production, that kind of thing. So there are entry levels that are now being taken a lot more seriously. And through that development, I think it allows for more people to get into the industry and allow them to be able to share their story and be able to screen their story with an audience, which right now I think there is an audience out there that really need new material. There's only so often and so many oceans, 11, 12, 13, 14 that they could come up with.
That you can keep watching and be like, okay, I know what's coming. Like, we've done this.
Yeah, exactly.
We've done it before.
They go in, they break in, they steal, they come out, and someone is angry. Okay, next. Okay, oceans.
Okay, next.
Okay, now we go throw a twist on it. Now, instead of having all male cast, we'll have an all female cast. Same story, same everything. Yeah. Just change the cast. Okay. And
it's a little bit phoned in sometimes, right? It just doesn't, the authenticity of the storytelling just isn't quite there in the same way for those kind of things that it is in the smaller story, or the smaller productions, not smaller stories, but smaller productions of a story that is equally valuable, or I would argue more valuable, because it is different, because it is something outside of the box. And it does give people a different perspective just to see a production even that is that kind of, and I don't know, Alecia, tell me maybe what you feel about that. Like, this is what I love about indie films, is that there's something kind of crunchy and organic about it, right?
It's not really mainstream like your Marvel or your Ocean's 8. It's very like, oh, this is something that someone directed and spoke to their cast about, and they're creating that type of hidden message behind that movie, right? When they're producing and when they're actually creating that space for them. So I like the fact that it's more, like I said, it's more of a type of family-oriented industry when they're producing those types of films than your regular like mainstream blockbuster types of films. And I'm here for it. I'm looking forward to see what Carmine and your production company, you guys are creating as well, and looking forward to seeing that on the big screen.
Oh, thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit from this, like from the insider's perspective?
Sure.
From projects that you have been on personally, the energy of being on something that is more sort of commercial, more for the bottom dollar, and the projects where you are doing an indie passion project. Like, can you talk a little bit about, from your own experience, like the differences there?
Well, funny enough, the people who are involved, the artists, whether it's the producer, the director, the sound guy, or the person in charge of wardrobe, hair, makeup, they're all there because they love the industry. So the feel and the vibe that you would get on an independent project as compared to a more commercial project is about the same in reality, because the people who you are surrounded by are artists. They want to be able to put together something, and I think it's a common acceptance that any production, it takes a village to put together. Not a city, not a country, not a state or a province, but a village. People who are close and who are like-minded and want to work together. So generally speaking, when we're on the set level of the production, there's very little difference. People are there with their passion and their hearts.
I love that.
That's beautiful.
That's who you want to work with, you know,
Right.
and that is something that I think in the creative industry, it's what is so exciting for me about me. Obviously, I'm a creative person, so I want to be a part of it, but it really is that you want to be around people who are in it because their heart's in it. Whatever you're doing, you want to be around people who love to do what they do and love why they're there, who are there because it's their authentic self to be in that position and really enjoying it. And that's what, I mean, isn't that what this human life is for? That's when it's the fullest and the tastiest.
Yeah.
That's exactly true.
I love it. I know we're coming up on an hour, and I do want to be respectful of your time, but tell us where people can be finding you and looking for all these projects that you're working on. We've got your links in the description, but direct our audience to where they ought to be looking for you.
They could look at IMDb. I do have my own website, CarmineIacono.com. And just Google me up and see where I pop up, kind of thing.
Do you have any, with the production that you're putting together, should people check your website if they want to be getting involved in that, from investing or crew or acting or anything like that and watching what you're doing? Should people be checking out your website? They can go on IMDb. We have it listed there as one of the productions. The contact information is there. Okay. And they can reach out. Definitely when we're ready to move to the next step. And the next step right now is kind of we're looking at a joint venture. Interestingly enough, Canada and Italy have this joint venture opportunity where productions could be done based on a joint venture, filmed partially in Italy, utilizing Canadian talent and crew, and there are credits and grants available from both countries. So we're on I Love Italy. We're really working on that. We're hoping to be able to film that in Naples and Rome, actually.
Nice.
Very cool.
Yes, and so there's quite a few things we're working on that one there, but that one there will be our, at least in my opinion, our trademark or benchmark production that we'll be coming out with, because it the storyline and the premise, it's just so fascinating. It truly is.
So exciting. It's like, I can't wait I'm just sitting here and thinking to myself, I can't wait to know what the main storyline is. I can't wait to know the motivation behind the characters. Yeah. I'm just so thrilled about finding out more about this.
Well, we'll keep that for our next episode then.
We'll keep that for the next episode. Then we'll give everybody the teasers. We're going to have to bring you back once you get started so we can be like, hey, y'all, he's getting started with the production. Go check him out. You want to be a part of it? Now's the time.
Sounds like a plan. I do want to mention one last thing.
Yeah. If
the audience has an opportunity to follow Stephen Wallis, Wallis, Stephen spelled with a PH. He's got some great work. The one that really caught my eye was called Defining Moments, which starred Burt Reynolds and Paulie Shannon. And I think that was officially Burt Reynolds' last movie before he passed away. Great movie. Very
love Burt Reynolds.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, how can you not?
Yes, and Paulie Shannon, she's wonderful. She's from Gatineau, Quebec, originally from that area. She's Canadian.
I mean, I was just gonna Alecia and Carmine, all up in Canada, just got all the entertainment industry sauce going. I know. I have got to get myself up to Canada. What am I doing?
And you should. Right? You should. and right now he's got the Martini Shot going around to different film festivals around the world, including a number of U.S. cities. So if you get an opportunity, go and see it. It's fantastic. I've seen it 3 times. And I'm still catching Easter eggs as I'm watching it. Okay.
Those are the most fun when there's always something new for you to discover in there. That's some of my favorite. Those are the movies that I do rewatch over and over again.
Yeah.
Where I loved it the first time and then you watch it again, and you're like, wait a second, there was I should have seen that the first time. I do love those kind of things.
Well,
Same.
you've seen it the first time. You just didn't quite connect.
Understand, right? Connecting the dots a little bit more solidly, right?
Exactly. Yes.
I love it so much.
So-
Carmine Iacono, thank you for joining us for Franki's Open Mic today. We are going to have you back because I want to hear so much more about everything you're working on. And I really do love your story that there's so many of us who don't think that it's a practical thing or that it's doable or that you can go out there and chase your dream and have it come true. But I love seeing people who go ahead and do it anyway and do the things. I wish you so much success, and I can't wait for me and Alecia to come visit you in Malta.
Yeah, definitely. See
sounds
you
like
soon.
See you soon, right? We're all just going to go hang out, and it's going to be a great time. I mean, listen, if you need some talent for the movie, Alecia and I are like,
Right there.
We'll make
We're
the room.
here. Yeah.
We're here for you.
We could be an extra on the side, whatever you need us to do.
There we
Whatever you need us to do, we're ready to jump in there and help out.
Awesome. Thank you so very much. And just for the audience, remember one thing. The worst thing that could happen when you follow your dream is that you had an opportunity and it may not have worked out, but at least you tried. Better to try than to always wonder. That's very
right.
important.
Love that message.
So
I do too. I so appreciate that. It's very true.
Thank
It's so
you.
much better to at least go for your dreams than to wonder what would have happened if I had.
exactly,
Better to know what would happen, right?
Yeah.
exactly it.
I love it. Thank you so much, Carmine, for joining us. Thank you, Alecia, for joining me to co-host. Thank you,
course.
everybody
Thank
who
you.
popped in and was in the comments and for watching now and later. Guys, we love you all so much, audience, and join us next time for another open mic, and we can't wait to have Carmine back.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Carmine.
Thank you.
Bye.